Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this young lady back. She, of course, four-term Congresswoman, 2020 presidential candidate, veteran with 3 deployments in war zones in the Middle East. It is Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, how are you? Good to see you
Aloha,
again.
my friend. Nice to see you.
Okay, go get the book right now. You've just got to get the book. Book.tulsigabbard.com or go to tulsigabbard.com and see where to get the book. Let me start here, though, and you didn't know I was going to do this because I don't generally kiss up to people that I interview. But you are such a person of your word. You have been such a great friend of my show, my audience, and what I do. You said, yeah, we'll come back when the book comes out. And here you are. And again, I think a lot of times people will say that on the air, maybe even say it on Instagram, but then big time you. You've been so great to my audience. I just want to say thank you for being a genuine person where a lot of people in your position aren't.
I that means a lot to me. Thank you very much, Joe. And I'm just grateful. You have been nothing but kind and welcoming to me over the years as we've talked about different challenges that we're facing here at home and abroad. And I feel like we have become friends somehow over the air. And so, of course, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to come back and to share my book with you. It's been out now 8 days officially, and it's just been a great experience being able to connect with people in different parts of the country, share my own experiences with them. And the feedback I'm getting has been hope inspiring, actually, because there's a lot of people who really resonate with some of the experiences I've had in their own way, of course, and who are starting to recognize more and more the great threats to freedom that we face that are coming from within.
For Love of Country, Leave the Democrat Party Behind is the name of the book. It's available now. And again, book.tulsigabbard.com. It is Tulsi Gabbard. It was the final straw for you in the Democrat Party because you wanted to be the president from the Democrat side when you ran, and people were really, really engaged by what you were saying. But it's almost like something went off, maybe a light bulb lights up and says, this is no longer even close to what you thought the party was. I see you as a John F. Kennedy Democrat. John F. Kennedy would be a conservative today. Is that what it was when you realized these aren't just lies? These are just so outlandish. It's not my party anymore.
Yeah, Joe, it was something that happened slowly over time and then all at once. And going through that campaign in 2020, running as a Democrat in the presidential primary, I entered that experience looking back with a good chunk of naivete, where I knew, okay, I'm going to come into this. I know I'm the underdog. I know that people like Joe Biden and other favorites and darlings of the Democratic Party will have far more establishment support and money, but at a minimum, I will have as fair a shot as any other person standing on that debate stage to make my case to the American people. I was naive to think that there's fairness in our democracy and that voters get to make a very real choice, because as I saw the very day that I announced my candidacy, and I talk about this in detail in the book, NBCnews.com threw out a hit piece that planted the seed of basically saying, hey, Tulsi, we don't think she can be trusted. There's some noise around. She's a darling of the Russians and so on and so forth. Again, without any base or evidence or reason for making this argument. I saw from day one, that day I stood on the stage in Hawaii announcing my candidacy, what they were going to do, and the they being the Democrat elite and their friends in the propaganda media and in big tech. And it only escalated from there. And so my conclusion coming out of the backside of that experience was, as you said, the party should be the party of JFK, the party that celebrates Martin Luther King's dream and does all that they can to try to make that dream our reality in this country. But what I experienced in that campaign, as I stood on the debate stage talking about this and saying this, I was hissed at and booed by the Democrat elite. I was criticized by Kamala Harris at that time. Her only criticism was Tulsi Gabbard goes on Fox News, and the crowd booed. And then Tulsi Gabbard had the audacity to criticize President Obama. It's like, of course, like it's our responsibility as elected leaders in Congress, when the president and commander in chief is making a decision that you feel is wrong for the country, it's your responsibility to stand up and do that. And in this case that she was talking about was two things. Number one, when President Obama said that he was going to go to Congress to start yet another senseless, objectiveless regime change war in the Middle East, I stood up and said, no, this is a bad idea. And I can tell you from my firsthand experience in 2 Middle East deployments to these war zones why it's a bad idea. And secondly, I criticized him for his refusal to identify the true short and long-term threat to freedom and civilization in the ideological warfare being raised by radical Islamist terrorist groups. As you remember very well, they changed the terminology away from identifying radical Islam as that ideology driving these terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and obviously we're seeing in Hamas. And they stopped using that term, instead coining the term, oh, we are countering violent extremism.
Yeah.
Well, what we're seeing play out today on our college campuses and in different parts of the world is the result of the cowardice of people like President Obama and President Biden now, who are so terrified of being called Islamophobes, they refuse to wage that counter ideological warfare against these radical Islamist groups by presenting the ideology of freedom that our country was founded upon. This is the greatest short and long-term threat that we face. My speaking the truth, and yes, calling out President Obama at that time, and just as I am calling out President Biden now for their failures on this front, it did not earn me any friends in the Democrat elite, and they strengthened their resolve to try to destroy me and my character, undermine my credibility, and the campaign ended ultimately with a total media blackout.
Yeah, but the joke is on them because you rose above it. And one thing is, somebody said, hey, Joe, do me a favor and describe Tulsi Gabbard. The last thing I would ever say is naive. I appreciate that you're telling us about it being naivete that made you think if I do well in the debates, they'll want me. Was the Democrat Party at that point at a teetering point, or was it already far gone? Maybe that's where the naivete is, because you thought if I go and perform well, I'll get votes, they'll have me on the stage again, I've got a chance to get the nomination. But was the party already gone and you didn't know it, or was that sort of the breaking point?
Well, here's what I realized. I knew that many rank and file Democrats then and even now miss that party of JFK. They miss that party that once stood for free speech, whether it's speech they agreed with or not.
Right.
That's separate and distinct from the Democrat elite who are in control of today's party, that is controlled by these woke warmongers who are tearing our country apart and undermining our freedom. So I knew that the elitists would not like my mission and my hope to be able to bring about change, not only in the Democratic Party, but in the country. But what I saw was that I couldn't even successfully make that case to the American people,
right,
because the propaganda media and big tech did all that they could to stop even Democrat primary voters from hearing about the different options that they had in that primary. So already the Democrat elite were interfering in that election and manipulating what information they were seeing, what candidates were being featured, which candidates were being silenced. I talked about those debates. The average, and I went back and looked recently as I was writing the book, on average, I had roughly 6 or 7 minutes of speaking time in each of those debates in what was a 2-hour-long debate with 10 people on the stage. And so that was one of many examples of how they tried to essentially erase or limit voters' exposure to me because they were afraid that they might actually resonate with my message about being a party of freedom that protects civil liberties, a party that actually brings people together, as Martin Luther King said, on the content of our character rather than the color of our skin.
Yeah, I did the quick math, my remedial math, and you should have gotten at least double that. 6 minutes was half of what you have gotten allotted had it been fair for every one of the 10 candidates. Their problem was that you were the most searched person on the planet.
Exactly.
After the first debate. That was their problem. They got scared. Tulsi, in a normal world, they would have said, holy crap, look who we have on our side. And she is grabbing young people and women and men and everybody in between. She's got their interest. We should probably back her. And that was your assumption, right? That they would say, well, wait a second. We've got something different, something special, something that's been worldwide searched like crazy in Tulsi Gabbard. Why not hitch our wagon to her? What did you think they would do that?
No, I was not that
Really?
naive.
Okay. Well, you said naive. I want to
Yeah.
see how far the naivete
Yeah,
went.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, no, no. It did not go that far.
Okay.
After, I resigned as vice chair. I was vice chair of the DNC for about 4 years, and I resigned as vice chair because I saw how the Democratic Party at the national level back in 2016 were doing the very same thing that they did in this primary with Biden and Bobby Kennedy. Back then, it was Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and a
Right.
few other candidates. They had chosen their favored person, which at that point was Hillary Clinton, and this time it's Joe Biden. And we're very brazenly and blatantly tilting the scales to favor that person that they chose. When, as a vice chair of the DNC, I actually read the rules that said, as a vice chair, as an officer of the Democratic National Party, you're not allowed to take sides.
Right.
You're not allowed to pick a candidate. You have to be an unbiased arbiter to make sure these elections are fair and balanced. And it was anything but that in 2016. I called out Debbie Wasserman Schultz at the time for her unilateral decision to favor Hillary Clinton and limit voters' exposure to Hillary Clinton because Debbie didn't want voters to have she didn't want Hillary Clinton to be challenged on a debate stage where her true record as Secretary of State, as a U.S. Senator, would be revealed, because then voters would see what I knew already, which was
Right.
if Hillary Clinton was allowed to be president, our country would undoubtedly be in more than one war very quickly, which would cost us yet again tremendously in human lives and in taxpayer dollars and make us less safe as a country.
For love of country, leave the Democrat Party behind is the name of the book. Go to book.tulsigabbard.com, book.tulsigabbard.com. Tulsi, is the Democrat Party gone completely? And let me just give you a few examples. Yesterday, the governor of the state of New York, Kathy Hochul, said young black children growing up in the Bronx don't know what the word computer means. Yet Ilhan Omar, who has said, my job is to make Congress do the work of Somalia. We had just recently, we had Rashida Tlaib from Michigan saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That's Jordan River, Mediterranean Sea. Israel can't exist. Has the party just they call themselves Democrats. Are they?
They are undermining our democratic republic.
Yeah.
I did a podcast with Chris Cuomo the other day talking about the book, and he mentioned that someone close to him who's a very staunch Democrat said, she doesn't like Democrats, and she named her book, We're the Democratic Party, not the Democrat Party. But I very intentionally used the word leave the Democrat Party behind as part of my title,
right,
because the Democrat Party is undermining our democratic republic. They are not acting democratic in any way, shape, or form. They're actually doing the very opposite. The Democrat elite who are in charge are unwilling to see the truth about what they have done to the party and to the country. I don't see them changing, period. My hope is that...
If you don't mind, let me just ask you this. Kathy Hochul, when she says that, Tulsi, does she believe that young black kids don't know what a computer is? She can't really believe that, can she? Or is she so pie-in-the-sky elitist sitting on her throne that she just thinks young black people are stupid and have no clue?
That is, in my experience, that is the answer. Her saying that it just reeks of a person who lives in an ivory tower, who probably hasn't gone and hung out with kids in the Bronx to see what's going on. I haven't spent a lot of time in New York City, so I can't speak to that specific example, but I can tell you all across our country, and I've been most recently through my Army Reserve active duty time just a few weeks ago. I was in third world countries where a lot of kids were running around with cell phones like you and I do. I mean, this is not an archaic generation that apparently Kathy Hochul still seems to be stuck in. But there are other examples of this, and she's not alone. You have Kamala Harris. You remember her talking about how voter ID laws are racist because black people don't have access to copy machines to be able to submit an application for an identification card of any sort from any government entity. I was insulted by that. Like, how little do you think of people? Once again, another example, like Kathy Hochul, like what world do you live in? It is not the world that we live in,
right?
All across this country, and that's part of the problem. Is they're so entrenched in their little bubble of elitist power that they certainly don't care about the people who live outside that bubble and who go through the very real daily struggles that Americans are dealing with across the country because of their policies. And they are convinced that they are the only ones who can save our country from who they see as the biggest threat, which is Donald Trump currently. And so all they care about is holding on to power. And they're willing to destroy our country, undermine and take away our freedoms, and destroy our democracy to reach that end, which is why I left the Democratic Party. I could not be associated with them any longer.
Book.tulsigabbard.com. Is that the Kamala Harris that locked up all the people for smoking pot, who's now posting on X every day that we shouldn't be locking up people smoking pot? It's not that Kamala Harris, is it?
And the very same one who I think she was on Charlemagne the God's radio show, and he asked her if it was a good question, have you ever smoked pot? And she started laughing about it. She talked about how she did. The hypocrisy and the rules, for thee but not for me. I mean, there's so many examples that we could cite. And really, it would be laughable if the consequences weren't so serious, because this really speaks to their mindset.
Yeah.
All of these examples, they don't respect the Constitution. They don't respect us as fellow Americans. They believe truly that they are better and smarter than all of us. And when you look at that dangerous mindset combined with the power of being in government and all of the tools at their disposal to weaponize public institutions against their opposition, we find ourselves in this moment where our fundamental freedoms, the rule of law, our democracy are being threatened by these Democrat elite, and why we must defeat them.
For love of country, leave the Democrat Party behind. Go to book.tulsigabbard.com and get this. Maybe get 5 copies. Send them out to your family and friends as well, because I think they're confused about Tulsi Gabbard. They shouldn't be. She spells it out in the book. Couple of last questions. Are you yet a Republican? Are you a conservative? Are you an independent? What are you politically now?
I am still an independent. I'm taking advantage of this position and platform that I have right now to be able to connect with the many, many politically homeless and unaffiliated voters across the country. I am able to deliver a message that's based on personal experience that some people may not receive as well from someone who is, an entrenched political party figure, for example. So, politics is you must be pragmatic, and I'm just maximizing the opportunity to be able to connect with as many people as possible who receive my message in a way that inspires hope in my heart, because they want to do the right thing. They want to protect and save our country and our freedom. And I think connecting with that experience gives them some knowledge. Hey, you're not alone. You're not alone in this at all.
There are a lot of people who identify as independent, and they don't really feel like they have a home.
Even Democrats.
There's
a
exactly
lot of disenfranchised Democrats who feel the same way that I have for so long, but haven't yet been able to take that step of realizing, like, okay, I can't be with this party that is insane anymore.
It is Tulsi Gabbard. Last question, and I think you agree with the premise I'm going to set up here. The government wants to be God. The government wants to be our educator. The government wants to provide us our food, give us how much money we can have, and tell us where to live. If they get all of that, which is what I think they want, and Obama, I think, did that on steroids, and I think he's running the White House now, and they're still doing it, that takes away all semblance of freedom and liberty. They want to be the higher power. They want to be the be-all, end-all. They want to be the Kathy Hochul's, who are the so-called smartest people in the room, although what she says is very dumb. Do you agree with that? And if you do, can we stop it?
I do agree with that. And that you really cut straight to the heart of it, of why they're doing what they're doing, which is what it's one of the most common questions I get asked. People recognize how dangerous their policies are, but why? Why would they do something that is so insane and that defies all common sense and logic and rationale? Well, they do believe, whether they're willing to admit it or not, they want to be the supreme controller. Yeah. They want to lord over all of us. They see we, the people, as their minions, who they have self-appointed themselves as the authority to tell us how we must live our lives, who is allowed to have free speech and who is not, what religions are acceptable and which are not. They're dangerous because of this mindset. And they will. This is why they feel justified in doing anything and everything they feel as necessary in order to stay in power. regardless of whether people are Democrats or independents or Republicans, which, by the way, 43% of voters are unaffiliated with either party, identify as independents. That's right now in the country. However people feel about any of the different candidates running for president, I just encourage people, and this is what I point to in my book, is look at their actions, look at their policies, look at their record, because there is a very clear contrast and difference between President Biden and President Trump. Our responsibility as citizens in this country is to stop those who are destroying our democracy and undermining our freedom. And the very first step in doing that is stopping President Biden and Kamala Harris from getting reelected and sending them home through our votes at the ballot box.
For love of country, leave the Democrat Party behind. It's Tulsi Gabbard. Go to book.tulsigabbard.com. Thank you for your belief in America, fighting for freedom and liberty.
Likewise,
and thank you for
my
your
friend.
friendship. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you. Thank you, Tulsi.
Talk to you soon.
All right, we're back after this. Stay right here.